Here's what's coming up on today's show.
So one of the huge things that people think about or don't think about, and they have questions about with Roth conversions, is where is the market at the time of them doing a conversion? If the market is low, if their assets are down, that can be a beneficial time to do a conversion because you're converting
less money,
paying less taxes, and then allowing that account to grow back up again.
Welcome to the Income for Life Show. If you're looking for some common sense retirement planning ideas and want to hear how we make the complex financial world simple, then listen up so you can learn how you can stay retired. The Income for Life Show is powered by Folds of Honor, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to providing educational scholarships to the families of America's fallen and disabled service members. Now, here are your hosts, Matt Nelson and Nick Schilling.
Welcome to the 2021 edition of the Income for Life Show. This is your host, Matt Nelson, along with Mr. Nick Schilling here. And we're sitting here the first week of 2021, reflecting a little bit about how the 2020 year went and looking forward to all of the upcoming changes, good, bad, and indifferent, that are all going to be coming into the new 2021 year. And like I just said, I'm here with Mr. Nick Schilling. Nick, how was your holiday season? How was your New Year's? How'd you do?
Fantastic. Great to be here, Matt, and it was really fun to see family, kind of recharge the batteries. Excited for the year to come. Maybe I'll actually go to the gym. The world's my oyster right now, and who knows?
You can do anything.
Who knows what my New Year's resolutions will be, and who knows, they'll go by the wayside. But I hope in today's conversation we actually talk about the steps that we actually need to take coinciding with retirement planning that we're going to talk to our clients about the whole year.
And there's so many changes and so many new opportunities, both good and bad, that are going to be coming into the 2021 year when we're talking about retirement, and especially in this first quarter of this year. Of course,
Correct.
There's potentially a lot of changes that are going to be coming all across the country, and everybody knows what those changes may or may not be. But as a result of that, there's a lot of nervous energy that's out there when people are starting to talk a little bit about their retirement accounts and what should I do if some of these said changes are coming down the pipe. You know, what will that do? How will that hurt me? How will that help me? So today's conversation that Nick and I are going to have for everybody listening today is we're going to be discussing one of those top topics, if you would, one of those top ideas that a lot of people are hearing about all over the country right now, and it dives into the idea of Roth conversions. And when we're talking about the Roth conversion, about taking pre-tax money, and moving that over to a tax-free money, is that right? Is that wrong? Is that good? Is that bad? Because Nick, I think that you would agree that there is a lot of marketing going on right now from financial advisory firms and financial planners, and a ton that we see that are saying how to convert to a Roth. You should convert your IRA, your 401k to a Roth. You should do that. We see it all the time, Nick, don't you think?
We do, and you staged it exactly correct, Matt, in the fact that anytime there's change on the horizon, even the potential for change, people are going to capitalize on that and try to market to that of here's what you need to do in preparation of that change to optimize your plan. One of these things, like the Roth conversion, Roth IRAs versus IRAs, what you should do, what you shouldn't do, gets marketed a ton in times like this with what we have coming on the horizon. And what we want to be able to do is actually have a real conversation, not just a marketing conversation as to why would one even think about doing this, who it really fits and when it might fit, and then kind of next steps and what they should do to really have a deep discussion as to what this looks like for them and their family.
And I feel like that a lot of people that do see that information about, oh, you should convert to a Roth, or they get a mailer, or they see it online or whatever. A lot of people don't dive into should I. Just because you can do that does not mean that that is a smart decision that you should do. And we're going to dive into that today here on the Income for Life show about the Roth conversion capability, so to speak. Should I consider this? What are the ramifications? What would that cost me, not only initially, but later Is this the right thing to do? Am I a good fit for a Roth conversion? So that's what we're going to discuss today here on the Income for Life show. And before we jump into that topic, Nick, I think that it's important for us to just give a quick shout out to our partners at Folds of Honor. I know that those guys are working unbelievably hard in what they are doing to help military families all across the country with their scholarship programs and everything. And I feel like that we just don't give them enough props, enough credit. So I want to express to Folds of Honor how happy we are that they are part of the Income for Life team.
What they do and who they support is so amazing, and we're so proud to be a partner with them, to have them in our ecosystem and in our life, that we're excited for what 2021 will bring for us and them and all the families that we're supporting together. We're really excited about it, and I think that's great, Matt. You're exactly right.
I think that those people are just wonderful at what they do with helping military families. And you can go to our website at incomeforlife.org and learn all about our relationship with Folds of Honor. But let's jump into, again, our topic of the day, where we're going to be discussing Roth conversions and whether they're a good idea or not. And what we're going to do is we're going to do our best to explain our method of our madness of how, Nick, you and I think when it comes to, is this a good idea or not? And obviously, when we are talking retirement planning, we are always discussing our 3 C's of retirement: the checkbook, the calendar, and the clock. And if you're new to the Income for Life show, what we mean by that is your lifetime income in retirement should be your primary goal to get set up. The checkbook, how much money is in that checkbook? The calendar, what day of the month is more money coming in? And the clock is, how long will that last?
Correct.
So when you are setting up your 3 C's of retirement, one of the things that you need to be considering is that net check. And that net check is taxes. That's what we're talking about, is taxes that could potentially have to come out of that. And then that just ties right into our Roth conversion idea.
That's exactly it, Matt. And when we talk about a retirement income plan, a retirement income strategy, what we're talking about is solidifying those 3 C's. That's the way we break it down. Things like a Roth conversion are tactics, something to optimize that plan if it fits your family, your goals, and your objectives at that time. What we don't want to have happen is the tactics to outweigh the strategy, the plan. The plan is the 3 C's. Other things like a Roth conversion, people might get enamored with it. It might get marketed a ton, but that's not the strategy. That's something to optimize. And when we're talking about optimizing it, in this circumstance, we're talking about taxes.
Absolutely. And let's back up just for a moment. And maybe there's some people out there that are listening right now that are saying, what do you mean? What is a Roth conversion?
Yep, set the stage.
I'm not sure what you're talking about. So let's dive into that, because there's something called a Roth conversion, and then there's the Roth contribution, okay? Yep. We're not talking the contribution. So if you're sitting here right now saying, well, I can't do that strategy because I make too much money.
Yep.
Me and my spouse, we make over $208,000, so therefore a Roth is not available to us.
Correct.
That is not what we are talking about. What you are discussing right there is a Roth contribution, where you're taking cash and wanting to start a Roth where you have the $6,000 to $7,000 a year that you can contribute to a Roth. If you make too much money, you can't do that.
Correct.
But when we are talking the conversion, a Roth conversion is taking IRA money, never been taxed on, like your 401k or your 403b or just an IRA at a brokerage at the bank.
Your tax qualified retirement plan.
And you're taking that money, paying the taxes on that money now to make it tax-free later. That's a Roth conversion.
Correct.
So that's why there's so many people out there that are marketing this strategy, because it sounds great. It sounds like, okay, well, I can take this money and I can make it into tax-free later. I mean, it sounds great, but it's not always that easy. And what we're going to talk about today, Nick, and I'll turn you loose on some of our data that we have here, but that process is not right. I would say for the majority of people out there that are listening right now, a Roth conversion process, to make real sense, is absolutely not for everybody. Wouldn't you agree?
Agree completely. And it gets overused, at least in marketing. So what we try to do is lay a foundation of when something like this, when a tactic like this, to be able to convert money that you will pay taxes on later to something where maybe we can arbitrage it and pay taxes now and have a long-term benefit later. That's something where we got to take in multiple variables into our analysis process. We got to look at where your tax brackets are now, what we think taxes are going to be in the future. It's a little bit of a gamble. We can look and say that taxes are at one of the lowest points in history, so odds are they're going to be higher. But then it comes into each individual family and each individual circumstance of where your individual brackets are now and what we think they're going to be going forward.
And let's jump into that right there, because here's what most people that I talk to are saying when it comes to, hey, I want to have this IRA and convert it to a Roth, okay? They say, okay, well, I'm concerned because maybe they saw it on television or they read an article from ABC Financial Company, you fill in the blank, whoever they might be, that says tax brackets are going to go through the roof in 2021. Convert to a Roth now, or something along those lines. So they have this mentality of, my gosh, I better do this now, because later on, whenever I get into retirement, the tax brackets are going to be off the chart.
Correct.
But what a lot of people need to step back and do their own analysis on is, when you do retire, what's your tax bracket going to be when you retire?
Correct.
Usually it is lower than where it is when you're working. So, okay, I'm thinking about doing a Roth conversion, and that makes sense because taxes may go up. And okay, so now I just got dumped into a higher tax bracket for this year because I did that Roth conversion.
Yep.
Whereas if I would have left it in an IRA status and just then paid those taxes as I go in that lower tax bracket that I am now in retirement, probably could have been a better way.
Exactly. And what Matt and I are trying to talk about is timing is different for everybody, and timing is different at each individual circumstance. So in January of 2017, when the current administration was coming in, if anybody remembers back, Roth conversion wasn't the hot topic at the time because advisors and prognosticators were thinking taxes were going to go down. So they weren't telling everybody, go convert your money because taxes are going to go up. Now, with the prospect of a different administration coming in 2021 and beyond, they're using not necessarily a scare tactic, but they're using the opportunity of change in the future to maybe get people to think in a different way. And what we want to do is bring a baseline of, don't just listen to an overarching comment. You got to think about it in your unique situation and what works best for you. So if you're going to convert something from an IRA, a traditional IRA or retirement plan, to a Roth, couple things. One, the only way it benefits you is if you're in a lower tax bracket now than you will be when you retire. That might be 5 years from now if you're in your 60s. That may be 15 years from now if you're 50 years old. Tough to know what brackets are going to be at that time. And then also, you got to have liquid assets available
to pay the taxes.
You got to have cash available right now to be able to pay the taxes. Not that there's not benefits long-term of a Roth IRA versus an IRA. Being able to not have to take RMDs when the IRS is requiring you to start pulling money out of your traditional individual retirement plans, that can be a benefit of being able to grow your Roth IRA, not have to take money out at 70.5 or 72 right now and let that grow for an extended period of time. And being able to arbitrage where your tax rates will be, those can be significant benefits. But there are necessities that need to be taken into account to be able to actually make that conversion a worthwhile thing right now.
And if you're in a situation that you have a substantial amount of IRA money and you have the cash ability to pay those taxes in this 2021 year, 2020 year, whatever it might be, you have the liquid capability to pay those taxes.
Correct.
And you understand that, hey, now I don't have to do RMD, so I can just let that thing grow because now it's a Roth and it can transfer on to my kids or grandkids or my trust or whatever.
Spouse or whatever.
Tax-free. It's wonderful. It is if you have the ability to do that, then it is a wonderful transition that you can consider. However, that's not everybody.
Correct.
That's 10%, 15% of the people out there that have that mechanism in place to be able to do that. What we normally hear here at Income for Life is we have a story that just was last week where the husband and wife came into us and they make about $80,000 a year combined.
Yeah.
So right now, on the married couples that are filing joint, they're in the 22% tax bracket for right now. And they were obviously concerned about, okay, taxes are going to go up, so I need to convert this over to a Roth right now because while the getting's good, right? I want to do it while the getting's good. Okay, well, we then stepped back and we kind of looked at that a little bit. So right now, if the tax brackets don't change at all, they're in the 22% tax bracket, which goes to $171,000, $90,000 under. So
Correct.
They're still in that 22. But their IRA that they were looking to convert over was a $300,000 401k that had been accumulating and over the past 10 years had got significant gains because the market's been so good.
Correct.
So as I explained, okay, you guys make $80,000 right now and you're in the 22% tax bracket, right? Yes. If you convert this over to a Roth today, that means this year's taxes will be $380,000. That means you are now way up in taxes.
You're bumping a couple brackets.
You're a couple brackets up now.
Yep.
So now you're going to pay that difference in those taxes on that money. Is that the right move for you? If you're going to have a substantial amount of money and income into retirement and you're going to be a higher tax bracket, maybe.
Yep.
But if you're just going to have your Social Security check and then some lifetime income numbers that we can help get you set up with, you may not
Correct.
be in a significantly higher tax bracket, even if the tax brackets change in the 2021-2022 year. If they do get adjusted a little bit, you still might be better off leaving that in an IRA status, don't you think?
Agree completely. And there's other options that we talked to them about of maybe doing a partial, taking a portion of that $300,000 that they
Kind
had
of
in that
carve it
nest
out
egg,
a little bit.
but it's still looking at the overall aspect of what they want to do. What are their goals with that $300,000 that they had in that nest egg? If it is to use it as income to support their lifestyle, then that takes a little bit away of the glossiness of a Roth IRA because of the long-term growth. If you're going to use it, you're going to take the money out no matter what. It can probably benefit you to just take it out when you're in your retired tax brackets as opposed to when you're in your income earning tax bracket years.
Absolutely.
So when we look at this stuff, and Matt, you mentioned a great point of not only timing wise for them and their life cycle of earning years versus retirement years, but timing wise as to where that nest egg had grown because of market gains. So one of the huge things that people think about or don't think about, and they have questions about with Roth conversions is, where is the market at the time of them doing a conversion? If the market is low, if their assets are down, that can be a beneficial time to do a conversion because you're converting
less money,
paying less taxes, and then allowing that account to grow back up again, paying taxes on a lower amount. If we're at all-time highs, now you're paying taxes on a larger amount of money, even if it's a partial or a full conversion, and you have the risk of that account going down if the market corrects even a little bit.
So think about that real quick, Nick. Let me jump in there. Let's say that everybody is under the assumption or the fear or whatever it might be that the market is going to correct.
Correct.
Sooner or later, it's going to have to adjust. It's going to have to drop down. We're going to have to get this under control.
And we've talked about that on multiple shows.
And we agree with that.
Yep.
And very well, it seems like it's not a matter of if now, it's just kind of a when.
Nobody knows when, but the probability is that it's going to correct at some time.
It's going to correct. So let's say you have still your money at this all-time high, because it still is. It should be. It's not moving around a lot right now. It's kind of stagnant. But where you were 10 years ago to now, you better be higher than where you were. If not, then you have a whole different bag of worms you need to deal with. But you have this all-time high, for example, 401k or whatever it might be. And you're thinking about doing the Roth conversion. So you do that, and that puts you into that higher tax bracket for that year of that conversion, and then the market drops. Man, So now you had got the tax hit and the market loss in the same year.
Exactly. And then you look at it to give a simple scenario of kind of dealing with simple numbers. If somebody has $100,000 that they convert in that account and you pay 25% taxes on it. So you got a $25,000 tax bill coming due April 15th of the next year that the IRS is going to want their money. You convert it, and in the next 3 months, the market corrects and it goes down to $80,000. Now you've paid 25% tax on what you thought was $100,000. Instead of paying a 25% tax, you've paid $25,000 on an $80,000 account. So you're at about a 40% tax rate in that same structure. And the bad thing is with the CARES Act, another thing that we want to talk about is you used to be able to do what's called a recharacterization and unwind that if the market went in a way that was not beneficial for you. So to bring that back, markets dropping after you've done a conversion when they're at all-time highs is a huge risk, and you've lost the ability to unwind that transaction, to redo it, to say, I made a mistake, it went in the different direction, I want to unwind that and not pay the taxes.
Let's have a redo.
Let's have a redo. Let's hit that button and have a redo so I'm not paying the taxes on an account that just dropped a ton and paying taxes early. Let's unwind it. They've removed that ability to recharacterize that account back from a Roth back to an IRA.
And think about that right there, Nick. That recharacterization option is no longer.
Yes.
So
massive risk.
So what that means now is if you had a whoops or you had a uh-oh or whatever, tough. It is what it is. And now you are in this Roth conversion process and you can't have a oops.
That's exactly it. Even if tax brackets move over time in the correct direction that you need them to, if the market works in the opposite direction and you can't unwind that and have a redo on that, you're probably in a worse situation than you were if everything worked out.
And which is so different than some of the marketing pieces that we often see.
Correct.
And if you're listening right now, maybe you know some of those marketing pieces and materials that are online, or maybe you're getting in the mail or whatever it might be.
Correct.
That are just really hammering Roth conversion, tax-free, make your money, tax-free retirement, all these things. But one thing that is glowingly obvious is the government's going to get paid. The
Correct.
IRS is going to get their portion up front or later. You can't get around that. Kind of like, what's, death and taxes, right?
Correct.
You're going to have that. So just because it is available to you does not necessarily mean that it is right for you.
And up until a lot of the marketing isn't talking about the recharacterization and the removal of that. They're still using the way that they used to talk about it pre-2017 with the Tax Cut and Jobs Act that the Trump administration put in. In that act, they removed the opportunity, the ability to recharacterize. Most advisors aren't reminding clients that that opportunity is gone. So they're just saying, do this because pay taxes now. If you got the cash, we know that rates are going to go up. But if the market corrects, there is no longer that unwind or redo button. And what we want to make sure is that everything is talked about in your process of considering a Roth conversion. And lots of times, Matt, what we talk about when we talk about the 3 C's, guaranteeing your accounts and guaranteeing your checkbook calendars and clocks are set, there are some strategies that we've talked about with our clients where if they're going to do a conversion, there's ways that they can guarantee that account doesn't go down either.
Exactly.
In the process of doing it.
And if you can do that through a structured product where you can have a system in place, a product in place, a retirement plan in place, where if you can be protected from that down.
Remove that downside risk.
Remove that risk
in
of
the conversion
down,
process.
Because that is where the whoops came in 2017, was that if the market dropped, then you have that whoops ability to kind of reset everything. But that is gone. That I made a mistake, let's start over is gone. So we have an ability to keep that account value steady and stable through what we do here at Income for Life. So we don't want anybody listening right now to say, oh my gosh, those guys hate Roth conversions. They're clearly telling us don't do a Roth conversion. That's not what we're trying to do.
Correct.
If a Roth conversion fits with what you want to do and the numbers line up, it's wonderful.
Correct.
Roth conversions are amazing if you have the ability to do it. But we want you to understand the facts before you do it.
That's exactly it.
As we talk about all the time, Nick, proper retirement planning is an elementary mathematical equation, as long as you know where the numbers line up inside the equation. And this is a perfect example of elementary math, knowing where the numbers line up to determine if this is right for you.
Exactly. And anytime within a conversion conversation, we're kind of forecasting in the future. We think taxes are going to go up, or markets and taxes are going to go up. So overall, this is going to be a beneficial situation for you. Anytime you're projecting, we're creating variables that could change and could go in an against us way. So what we want to be able to do is add in some certainty into that process, be able to use products and strategies that start to remove some of those variables, create some solidification of your plan, and that way we can just concentrate on what you need to accomplish and see if these type of tactics actually benefit your plan. We've done multiple conversions even in 2020 with sets of clients where it worked out for them in their strategy at that time. We've also talked clients out of doing it in 2020, and I'm sure will in 2021 going forward. It all depends on your individual scenario. It's a larger conversation than what most people are marketing right now.
Correct. And you hit on something just a moment ago where you talk about this certainty. What we try to work on here at Income for Life with our clients is to really focus on, we need to lock in our lifestyle. We talk about it all the time. We need our lifestyle set. We need certainty with our income, our paychecks, our calendars, our clock. We want that set so that later on down the road, we have that certainty. We have that lifestyle locked in. We have all that set up and ready to go. And a Roth conversion could do that. It very well may not be a smart thing, because if you need a whatever income amount, you have a declared income need that you have, okay, fine. Maybe we can convert that over to a Roth and have some of that tax-free. Maybe it'll be good for you to do it, but you have to understand the good and bad and indifferent of that decision, because the oops opportunity or the reset opportunity is now gone.
Correct. And whenever we're doing the planning process, and you said it, Matt, the strategy is the 3 C's. That is paramount. Everything else is a tactic that we're using with it. Many people are just marketing a conversion as an opportunity that somebody needs to take a look at. What we look at it as an opportunity for us to have a conversation. They don't need to do it. It's to have a conversation about how that may play in their overall 3 C's plan. What we always talk to them about is, either way, you don't want to pay more taxes than you need to. The last thing we want to do is not utilize taxes in the conversation. But we can't have the tax tail of the strategy be the one wagging the dog around. The dog is the one wagging the tail. Taxes are just the tail of this strategy. We want to optimize it. We want to take into account what you need and what you need going forward. But the strategy is the conversation that we need to stick with. Everything else just works around the periphery of that to try to optimize your plan going forward. And that's what we try to get people back to. Don't get enamored with the next conversation that an advisor is talking to you about just to get you to do something.
Correct.
It goes back to the plan, and does this help optimize that plan?
And when we're talking about this idea of, do I keep it in an IRA status, or do I convert it over to a Roth? I got all these things that, the idea of tax-free retirement sounds wonderful.
Fantastic.
And the government knows that. Okay, that's the thing that people need to understand, is the government understands that as well. So that's why you cannot just dump in a whole bunch of cash and make it into a Roth. That's why they have the limits. You got the 6,000 to 7,000 a year. If you make
the contribution limits,
you
income.
make over
Yep.
208,000, you can't do one at all because the government knows that. Now, why is there no limits, no income limits on the conversion? It's very simple.
They want their taxes
They
now.
get their money now. The
Yep.
government gets their money now. So instead of waiting over time and getting it as you're living into retirement and maybe living into your 80s or 90s, they get it all up front.
Correct.
And they also understand that if that's a significant sort of a transaction, they may get more from you than if they waited and took it over the long haul, because they understand that a lot of people will go into a lower tax bracket whenever they are in retirement. The government has people that are actuaries that sit in the dark basements just like other people do. So they understand that. So if they can get that money up front
Yes.
at a higher tax bracket for you than it would be later on down the road, they're going to let you do that all day.
All day. And one of the things that people talk about is most of the time people don't get through their retirement assets in a tax-free structure. So you might not use up all of your IRA assets, and it get passed on to your wife or kids, and they start to utilize that over their lifetime or a set amount of time. That's one of the benefits of a Roth IRA. They incentivize you to pay the taxes up front, and then you can use that as a tax-free benefit long-term for your heirs. But the IRS, the government, Uncle Sam is still wanting to collect all of their money up front. They know that if they can get your taxes now, they'll make some money and be able to do some stuff on it long term. So all of the benefits of a Roth IRA and a Roth conversion come with some risks and things that you need to do now. And we need to make sure that all of those things align, not only right now, but long term of where you're going to be, what your plan is, where you're going to live, where you live right now and where you want to live in retirement. There's a lot of different variables that come into this planning process as opposed to just enacting it.
And of course, the government's going to let you do that conversion.
Pay your stuff up front.
You know, because they're not stupid, and people see it all the time. I mean, our national debt is what, 20-some trillion dollars, right?
It's a big number.
Getting bigger and getting bigger. Yeah, why would they not want to get that tax money up front? You know, and they know that, okay, probably if that's going to take you from that 22 to that 40% tax bracket on that Roth conversion year, and there's not an oops, let's go reset, they got you.
Correct.
Right there. And they just thank you for that extra 15% or 18%. And then you're down the road, and now you got your tax-free money and you're living tax-free. Okay, fine. You could have been in the 15% tax bracket in retirement, but you paid 40 whenever you did the conversion. Correct. So at the end of the day, Uncle Sam won.
Correct.
So is there going to be opportunities for the Roth conversion? Of course. There's always going to be situations where that makes complete sense. You have the money to pay the taxes. You understand that you want to leave a tax-free legacy, for example, and you want to have that tax-free down the road. I get all of that. So Roth conversions can be incredibly valuable. And if somebody does already have a Roth right now, we love them. Obviously, you know, that's tax-free later, so roll with it.
If you're able to, contribute to it as fully as you possibly can. And here at Income for Life, we're not saying that we don't think the tax landscape is going to change. At some time, you just said $20+ trillion. We're going to have to start paying down that debt somehow, and that's going to be through taxes. We just don't know exactly what that change is going to look like. And we want our clients to be prepared no matter what, to be able to capitalize on that. There's no reason to front end the government money if you don't need to. And your situation is so unique that we need to think about what you're going to do in your individual plan, as opposed to just saying now is better than later because taxes are going to go up. Maybe they will, maybe they won't for you individually. Even if they do in general, they may not with your unique situation.
Your tax bracket may not change at all.
Correct.
Your tax bracket may go down.
Correct.
Nobody knows. Everybody is assuming that these changes are going to happen and they're going to be immediate and they're going to be very aggressive. So the marketing that you hear is you need to do it now. You need to do it now.
Correct. It's almost a scare tactic that the minimum tax bracket's going to be 50% and everything's going to be chaos. Well, we almost know that that's not going to happen. There's going to be changes. We need to be able to react and adjust our strategy, adjust the 3 C's to optimize those things as the changes come. But you need to look at your individual plan before you start making wholesale changes.
Especially with all of your IRA. I
Correct.
mean, there's options.
Good point, Matt.
There's
Yeah.
options that you can do if you're listening right now. Well, I don't want to have that great big tax bracket, right? I don't want that great big hit. I don't want that in this year. And then if something does, happen to go negative, I can't do that whoops reset anymore. There are ways that you can kind of have your cake and eat it too when it comes to this. If you do have a pretty good IRA and you're wanting to move that over into a Roth status, there's nothing that says you have to do that all in one hit.
Good point.
You can gradually do that. Like, for example, that client that we were just talking about a moment ago where they make $80,000 combined, but the 22% tax bracket goes to $171,000.
Yep.
And they had that $300,000 IRA. My thought was, okay, let's start carving some of that IRA out.
Correct.
Let's keep you in that 22% tax bracket that you're in because you have $90,000 to play with.
Of wiggle room. Yep.
And so let's just take, 30, 40, 50 grand a year over 5, 6, 7 years. If it works, then you can adjust it on the fly, but gradually move some of that over to a Roth. It's literally a Roth carve out is what we call it.
And then it really comes down to how much they're comfortable of the cash that they have available to pay the taxes on.
You're
that.
exactly right.
We're not adjusting the tax bracket. You're not taking a bigger tax hit. You're taking a more recent now tax hit. Do you have the cash and liquid assets available to pay it?
On a lower number, too.
On a lower number. So whatever works best for you from a comfort level, from a tax standpoint, you're also then hedging over time where the market's at. So you're starting to pull stuff out and take tax advantage things at a higher market, but you're not doing the whole kit and caboodle and not being able to unwind it.
And you can control it
Correct.
then. And like we discussed earlier in the show, if you are going to do that strategy, then you want to make sure that your IRA is in a place of safety.
Agree.
So if you have the IRA moved into a place of safety, that you can then carve out over time, and the amount you carve out, you can adjust every year. So if the market does go down, or if the market goes up, or tax brackets change, or whatever, you can control that carve out mechanism. That's the way that you can do it. Now, it takes a little bit longer.
Correct.
And so now you don't have all of that money immediately compounding up tax free. So I understand, but you also don't have a great big tax hit in one given year.
Correct.
And you can kind of pull it over and do it that way.
And structuring and guaranteeing where those converted assets are held, making sure that market volatility, that potential risk out there isn't a risk for you, is one of the core conversations that we're having with all of our clients in this time period.
And here's another thing to consider, Nick. If you're starting a Roth IRA and you're wanting to do that conversion, you have to have that Roth in place for 5 years.
You got to keep it for 5 years.
It has to be kept for 5 years before you can do anything with it anyway.
Correct.
So let's say you don't have a Roth, you want to do a Roth, right? You don't want to pay that great big tax hit in that 1 year, right? You got that $300,000 IRA. You're 60 years old, right? You are looking to do this. You could carve that out over 5 years if you wanted to. Keep yourself in your tax bracket that you're in currently, or adjust on the fly to keep you in a certain tax bracket.
Yep.
Pay those smaller taxes on that Roth carve out. And then at age 65, which is 5 years later, the Roth is free and clear.
Correct.
And could be fully funded by then. So the downside of that strategy is, okay, now I don't have $300,000 compounding day one. But you also don't have a 45% tax bracket either.
Correct.
So it just takes time, and for a lot of people, it's smarter. Like that client that I was discussing, it was a smarter way to go because they could control it. When I say control, they could control whichever way the tax brackets go. They can adjust how much the carve-out was.
Yep.
And then they can pay the smaller tax amount in their current tax bracket on that smaller carve-out amount. So if you're listening right now and say, oh man, I don't know if I really want to do that Roth conversion because it's going to blow my taxes out of the water, there's a way around that.
And annually, they're able to decide how much.
Exactly.
How much they feel comfortable with, what optimizes their current tax situation and their liquid asset situation. If they spent more money that year doing other things, maybe it's less this time, so they're not eating in to all of their liquid assets. It all comes down to year in and year out. We're having a great conversation about what fits best for them at that time to be able to take advantage of the situation at that time.
And you have the ability in year 3 to just leave it alone if you want to.
Correct.
Just because you have a 5-year plan of a carve out doesn't mean year 3 and 4 you have to do it.
Correct.
It's adjustable every year. If the tax brackets do change up or down, you can adjust your number up or down. Or if in 1 year you're like, man, I don't know if I have enough liquid cash on hand to pay those taxes for this year, let's not do it this year.
Great.
Okay, leave it alone. So the idea of a carve out really begins with, okay, that IRA needs to be in a place of safety. You have to have that portion in one of those structured assets that we were talking about a little bit ago. It has to be safe. And then you can pull out of that, because now if it's safe, the ups and downs of the market are not going to affect you in that negative way like we discussed.
Exactly. And it's, again, we're repeating ourselves over and over again, but we think it's the core conversation that has to happen here. Is each one of these things is an individual conversation. There's a lot of variables that go on. We love to have these conversations with our clients because that means they're thinking about where the future is going to be, where their retirement plan is going to be, and hopefully where this fits into their 3 C's. So it's a fantastic conversation. Sometimes it doesn't fit with what they want to do, and sometimes it does, and maybe we just got to tweak it a little bit. But the conversation of a Roth IRA versus an IRA, there's significant benefits depending on your situation and depending on what you want to do going forward. So if you need to have that conversation or want to have that conversation, just give us a call.
That's all it takes. All we will do is just sit down with you on the phone and just have a phone conversation of, okay, I have X amount here. I'm considering, I like that idea of a Roth conversion or a Roth carve out. Here's my age. Here's what we do. And we'll run your numbers. Yeah. We'll be able to show you exactly what we're talking about, customized and tailored for your situation in a way that makes sense.
Yeah.
Common sense retirement planning is what we always focus on here at Income for Life. And while we wrap up today's show, as we're talking about the Roth conversions and paying taxes now as opposed to paying them later, there's a lot of Kansas City Chiefs language that is going on out there. As we, of course, every single show we talk about, future Hall of Famer MVP Patrick Mahomes and our world champion Kansas City Chiefs, because this time of the year
playoff season
is playoffs. So when you're talking about the pre-stuff, whatever, that's over. Now we're looking into the future because we have playoffs coming. But ironically, our Chiefs are not even playing this upcoming week. Why is that, Nick?
They've had a good year.
They've had a good year.
Been able to lock up the division, been able to lock up a first-round bye.
And, God loved those L.A. Chargers last week. They managed to beat those, at the time, 14-1, defending world champion Kansas City Chiefs. So you guys can hang your hat on that, Chargers, because you beat the champs. Maybe next time we play, we'll start our 19 starters that we had out of that game.
Different team.
Whole different team. So here we go, moving into 2021 year. We got all these things that are happening, all the changes that are coming. But one thing that is not changing is that our Kansas City Chiefs are champs, and they are expected to repeat. Agreed?
Agreed.
So if you're listening out there, Mr. Patrick Mahomes, of course, you're always invited onto our show. You're clearly busy this week. Our invitation didn't reach you. You're studying up and probably resting up and doing all the things that you need to do. But once again, we couldn't get to you. You couldn't get to us. We'll get it sometime
Maybe
this year.
In the offseason after they win another Super Bowl.
Yeah, well, that kind of later in the offseason because they play all the way through February and all the way to when they get to Tampa to win the Super Bowl again.
Yeah.
But that's okay. But in the meantime, Mr. Patrick Mahomes, you're always welcome here on the Income for Life show. And as you're listening in today, we hope that we gave you some good information about the thought process of a Roth conversion, or what we also like to call the Roth carve-out. If you have any questions, you want to talk to us directly, just give us a buzz. Our phone number is right on incomeforlife.org. Absolutely get there, find all of our information that we have, get a hold of us, and we will gladly give you our best thoughts, strategies and ideas of how you can stay retired.
Let's have a great 2021.
Until then, have yourself a wonderful rest of your week. Go Chiefs, and bye-bye for now.
Thanks Thanks for listening to the Income for Life show. If you have any questions about something we talked about today or want to get in touch with the Income for Life team, just give a call to 833-450-3068. That's 833-450-3068. You can also go online to incomeforlife.org and check the description of today's show for any relevant resources and contact information. You can also find the podcast on all major podcasting apps, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and many more locations. The Income for Life show is powered by Folds of Honor, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to providing educational scholarships to the families of America's fallen and disabled service members. For more information, visit foldsofhonor.org. Information provided on today's show is for informational purposes only and does not constitute investment, tax, or legal advice. Information is obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but their accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. Always consult with a qualified professional before taking any action.